Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to continue with intermediate CSS. In the last one, we said about the box model and how any element of the HTML page can be represented by a box which will have four properties: the content, border, padding, and margin. Margin is the space outside of the border and padding is the space inside of the border between the content and the border. So now the next thing that we're going to see is how we can select specific areas on a page. So what I mean by that is, let's see our example again. So if I go here, I can see that this portion might be differently styled because it does not have a background, and this portion might have been differently styled because it has a white background and also has something known as a box shadow. There is some pretty light shadow to it. You might not notice it because you've not used it ever, but there is a small shadow to it. However, if you remember the code, both of these were enclosed in divs. So first of all, let's see what a div is. First thing you're going to see is a div. So for that, let's just first make some random data to do our experiments on. I'll make a new file and save it as intermediate css.html. I'll get my template and again I'll indent all of it. I'll give the title as intermediate CSS. Now I'll do some random data on my page. I'll do an h1 saying intermediate CSS. Now I'll make 3 paragraphs, lorem 100 each. So what I can do is I can simply duplicate this line twice by shift plus alt plus down again. So now I have 3 paragraphs on my page, and now I'm going to add one more h1. And this will say, oh, let's do an h3 on this one, or an h2. This is an h2, and then we'll make another h2 saying this is another h2. And what if I move this below this and the other two below this? So if I open this up, let's see what we get. I have the main heading here, I have an h2, I have some paragraph under it, and this is another h2, and then there are 2 other paragraphs under it. So what this basically is this would be a pretty common structure, right? You would have a main heading to a page, then you would have a subheading to a page, you would have some content inside that subheading, and then the same thing for another subheading. So now let's see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a div. So what if I wanted to style this paragraph as red and the other two as, I don't know, yellow, right? So this is a pretty small code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of it inside the style tag. However, again, I'm repeating that most of the times it's best to make a separate file when we're doing some professional scenarios. However, this is just a demo and this is not a very long code. So that's why I'm going to use the style tag. You can use it too. And when we move to some actual projects, we'll make a separate file. Right. So now inside the style tag, what we've learned till now is we can do p color. Other one we wanted red, right? So I'll do red and I'll refresh. So all of these turn red. Now what if I do something like color yellow again? So take a moment and think about what will happen. Try to imagine logically. And I haven't saved this. Now if I save this and refresh, I see all of this turns yellow. So the first thing that you need to see is that if you're setting the same property for the same element twice, whether it be in the same set of parentheses or another set of parentheses, you could do something like p color green, and then if you refresh, you can see this turns green. So thing is that whichever styles comes later in the style sheet will be applied. But what I mainly want to show you here is that no matter what I do, I cannot apply different styles to all of these three paragraphs. However, that is something you might really want. You will not want the same color of all the texts on your page in all the applications, right? I mean, in most of the applications, you won't want to apply different styles to different elements of the page and different styles to different paragraphs of the page too, even though they're the same element. So I'll keep this as green, it looks really good. So now what if I want to style only this first paragraph? So that is where something known as a div comes in. So how you use the div, you'll do this, it's a tag, and then if I move this up, and if I refresh, again nothing changes because still we have applied all our styles to our paragraph, right? But if I change this to div, right, and if I refresh, I see only this paragraph is now green, right? And that is because the only thing wrapped inside this div is this paragraph. And you could have multiple things inside a div. I could do another h3 saying this is the sub heading of the page. And now if I refresh, I see that is green too. And this is because everything inside this div tag right here, everything that I write inside of this tag will be affected by the styles that I'm applying to this div, right? So this is what a div is. This is basically all that a div is, and you'll use this pretty often, right? But one thing I want to show you is that if I applied a div instead of this, if I wanted to turn only this amount of text green, like, it's getting selected. Right. If I wanted to turn only this green, what would I do? I mean, this is not in a specific tag right now, right? So what I could do is I could wrap all of this inside a specific div tag. If I do div here, and I close the div here, and if I refresh, I see this turns green. However, there's a problem that it comes in a separate line. Now we'll discuss why it comes in a separate line in just a moment. But the first thing I want to show you is that there can be multiple divs on the page too, right? So if I make a div here, and I end it somewhere around here, let's say I end it here, right? And if I refresh, I see this portion which is inside the second div turns green too, because I've applied a color of green to the div, right? So this is applied to all divs in the whole page. So that is what a div is. However, another problem that we see here is all of this is in the same line, we've written it in the same line, but it still comes in separate lines. So you could try to imagine the difference, the reason behind that, and the actual reason behind that is simply that div is a block level element. So if you don't remember what a block level element is, we have discussed it. So a block level element is an element that would take its separate line. And the second type of element would be an inline element, which you could put in the same line as some other elements too, and it wouldn't make a difference. Like if div was an inline element, this ipsum would be after this lorem only, right? So that's what a inline element is. So this is the one thing that div cannot do, is that you cannot use it as an inline element because it is block level. And that is where span comes in. Now span is exactly similar to div, except it is an inline element and not block level element. So let's see what I mean by that. If I change this div to span, and now if I refresh, we don't have any styles because we have not specifically styled span. So if I do span and color of green and I refresh, I see this turns green and it stays on the same line, which I would want ideally in a paragraph like this. So that is the use of a span, right? And that is exactly the use of a div, but you would mostly put divs around things that are separate entities of the page. Like here, if I make this bigger, this is a separate entity on the page, this photos thing. This left sidebar is a separate entity on the page. This is a separate entity on the page. And like you can see them as different, you can visually differentiate between them as different elements of the page, right? And that is why they are wrapped inside divs. They would be wrapped inside divs, right? And same on a place like this, let's say, if we wanted to style this, because this is in line with this, then we would normally use a span, right? And I know you could find a lot of examples for span too. If you wanted to make this text green, then the HTML coding for that would be through a span. Like you could do it with normal editor in Word or something, but actually everything is working in HTML, right? So this would work with a span and not with a div. So that's the only difference. And the basic use of both two is to select a specific area of the code or select multiple specific areas of the code that you might want to affect and leave out all the other areas, right? So initially I had made a same video for div, span, class and ID, but that was getting too long. So I think it would be better if we could split this into two. So this is where div and span ends. Basically, to give you a recap, div and span are both used to select uh, different elements of a page, different sections of a page, without actually having to select the whole element itself. You could select only specific area on the page, even if all of it is inside of the same tag, and you could leave all the unselected area out. And you could do arbitrarily any area of the page without any problem, right? And the difference between a div and a span is that a div is a block level element while a span is an inline element. So we're gonna end this video here and we're gonna learn about class and ID in the next one. I'll see you.